Good afternoon and welcome to the inaugural Black Minds Matter Black Owned Schools Tour. My name is Denisha Merriweather, founder of Black Minds Matter and host for this year's Black Owned Schools Tour. During this year's tour, um, we're going to highlight 8 Black-owned schools from across the country in Wisconsin, Tennessee, District of Columbia, California, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Arizona. The purpose of the Black Minds Matter movement is to raise awareness of the institutional inequalities in the education system that eerily resemble the institutional injustices of the criminal justice system. We seek to liberate Black minds and nourish them with a rich education by any means necessary because our essence and our being deserve life. We know that across the country, many African Americans have founded schools, and we want to hear their stories. We want to hear their visions and celebrate them. Education has always meant Black power, Black liberty, and Black justice. The freedom of the body and the mind has always been the goal, and African Americans will stop at nothing to achieve them both. To learn more about the movement Black Minds Matter, visit our website at blackmindsmatter.net. Thanks for joining. And let's hop right into our next school, the Social Justice School in Washington, D.C. Thanks so much. And let's see a quick video about the impact you guys are making.
Welcome everyone to the Social Justice School. My name is Brandon Johnson and I'm the founding principal here at the Social Justice School, and here with me I have...
Hello everyone, my name is Myron Long. I'm the founder and executive director of the Social Justice School. Welcome to our amazing building. We are located at 5450 3rd Street, a 5-minute walk from the Fort Totten Metro Station, located in the Lamont Riggs neighborhood.
So I first want you to notice our wonderful lockers. Every Scholar activist starts their day by dropping their stuff off. Now let me take you into one of our first classrooms, the ELA Classroom. Let's go. So before we walk into the classroom, there's a couple of things that I want to point out to you. The first being, notice that there's going to be 2 teachers in the classroom, and the reason for that being is we believe that we need to provide a high-quality instructional environment for all students. So there's a general education teacher as well as a special education teacher position in the class. In addition to that, you're also going to notice that on the wall, there's a beautiful display of student work, and it's because we really believe on putting students' thinking and their work on display, and so we do that throughout all of our classrooms. The last thing, everybody knows we are in COVID season right now, and so we want to make sure that we are maximizing safety. So on the floor, you'll notice that we have markers to separate 6 feet distance between our desk, and students as you enter the classroom are all sitting 6 feet apart. So as we come into this classroom, I want to point out some of the natural features as well as some of the other elements that we do to really enhance the learning here at SJS. The first being, you'll notice when you come in, there's beautiful windows that are positioned at the top of the wall, and that's meant to provide a lot of natural light so students feel really awake and engaged as they start their day. The second being, you'll notice that throughout the classroom there are 4 whiteboards and a mobile whiteboard that are positioned throughout the room in order to make sure if students need to get up and do any work or put their thinking on display, that they have the ability to do that. And the third being, we really believe in providing tech, especially in this digitally enabled time that we're in. And so each classroom has its own set of laptops that are positioned in that classroom, as well as there is a TV that is centered in the middle of the room in case the teacher needs to put any work on display.
Welcome to the Liberation Design Lab. This is our social justice makerspace here at our school. Every day, our Scholar activists get a chance to come here and create community together. And they also get a chance to use technology to redesign what this more just world will look like. Here are some of the stations. This is a button machine station. At this station, our Scholar activists might make a sign or a button that says, "No more food deserts in DC." This next station is our Cricket station. At this station, our Scholar activists have the opportunity to make logos where they can put it on their sweatshirts, in their hoodies, and their t-shirts, advocating for different social justice issues. And last, this is our 3D printer station. At this station, our Scholar activists have the opportunity to build prototypes of solutions to issues in their community. So for example, they might build a prototype of a vending machine that can distribute produce to different neighborhoods who are experiencing food deserts here in DC.
Wow. Just amazing. Your
you.
impact and your ability to deliver high quality content in the 21st century is not an understatement. Because as we know, during COVID-19, everything has shifted online. And so the quality of video and just the impact you guys are making is remarkable. So tell me a little bit about when the school was founded, how many students you guys are serving now, and why did you decide to create this school? When did that vision birth inside you?
Definitely. So I'm a native Washingtonian and been in education for about 15 years. And our journey as a social justice school really focused on our commitment to being designers and our focus on design thinking and social justice. And so, we always start our design work with a question like, how might we? And so one of the questions we were trying to ask and answer was, how might we design an experience for young people that was rooted in love and learning and liberation? And then so what we decided to do was actually hear from young people directly and their families to figure out what kind of learning experience would align to those core values. And so what we found out is that, our families wanted spaces where young people had the opportunity to collaborate, to learn about issues related to social justice, and to have the opportunities to do research and apply what they learn in school. And so with those empathy interviews that we did, we decided to create a few pilots to really test our hypothesis, because me and our co-founder both saw that when our young people were engaged in acts of engage in texts that were related to social justice and real world issues, like the engagement just was increased significantly. And so that started our journey into creating our pilots that eventually became the Social Justice School. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure that was true is that we didn't want to assume that we knew the needs of our community. Despite being a native Washingtonian, despite being a Black man in education, I also know that I am generations removed from the young people who I'm actually serving now. And so our pilots were designed to be able to get feedback. And during each of our pilot, we actually ended up changing parts of our model based on the learning that we did. And for us, that's a way for us to decolonize school design through adding, through active listening, which really means ceding power and giving power to the young people who are experiencing our school, because that's what matters most to us. And so this was a journey that has been in the making for 5 years now, starting off with a pilot of one advisory to a longer pilot with about 10 students to our largest pilot 2 years ago called the Freedom Academy. And that was our longest pilot with 25 students. And so we took that iterative process and, wrote our charter application and thankfully got approved. And now we have 53 scholar activists like Darian who come to our school in order to learn and to really be rooted in love, learning, and liberation.
Yeah, and so you guys have, what does social justice mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we struggle with that, honestly, Denisha, because I think when people think about social justice, they normally think about it in a sense of like outcome based. So they think about it in a sense of like equitable housing. They think about it in the sense of like, a redistribution of wealth or abolishing of the prison system, etc. And so it was really important for us to look at process, right? Because our goal isn't to provide students what to think, it's to teach them how to think. And so for us, we see social justice as a design response to systems of inequality. And so we believe that these systems were designed, and because they were designed, they can be redesigned as well. And so we want our young people to have an ethos of social justice, which really means like, I'm going to be so empathetic and vulnerable with myself that I'm willing to connect with other people and put myself in their shoes and to be vulnerable and to empathize, but not just stop with empathy, but to do something about it. And so we don't teach our young people like, you have to be a traditional grassroots organizer, or you have to be, in politics. You can do a variety of different jobs and have a variety of different experiences. But at the end of the day, we want you to love yourself, love your community, and be so moved by that love that you want it to be more just and get out and do something about it.
Yeah. Darian, you go to a school that's really focused on making a change. How does that influence your academics? So, and even the title, scholar slash activist. Um, how do you? What's your view on that?
In my opinion, it influences my education. Like, it makes me want to do better in school, because if I do better in school, then I'll have a better feeling with myself when I'm home. And my family, they love my well-being, so therefore that'll impact my family and make them better.
Yeah. Is it your hope, Myron, that you're gonna create change makers?
Yeah, definitely. I think our hope is that our young people are at the forefront of social justice, and the reason why we think that it will be true is because when we look at any social movement in our country, we always, despite like the myth that it was the elders who were doing all the work, which they were doing a ton of work, it's always young people who tend to be at the forefront of civic engagement that has led to change in our society. We believe that our young people will continue to carry on that torch.
Yeah. When I think about social justice, and this is a tour for Black owned and founded schools. And when I think about social justice, that's at the front of my opinion of what that means. That it means Black liberation. It means, Black justice. And it fits into this aspect of what we're talking about, Black owned and founded schools. Do you get that a lot? Am I off by just projecting that into what social justice? I'm sure it's more. It includes climate change and all these other activities that our social lives. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that Black-led schools reflect our notion of social justice, in the sense of like, folks saw a challenge, they worked with the community, and they collectively built something in order to serve that community. And that, to us, is what social justice is all about, which is, having this deep empathy for your community, working in community, and collectively working towards liberation. And so, that's definitely mission aligned to what we do or try to do every day.
Yeah. Did you find it strange, and even Darren, so which shouldn't come to any surprise of anybody's Black owned schools are in the minority. There are not a lot of Black owned schools. So on both sides, how do you feel with being a Black founder of a school and chair in that gift that it is? And then Darren, you go to a school that's owned and founded by a Black person and a Black man at that. And so that's like minority within minority. And so yeah, I'll take let's let you guys answer those.
Darren, you want to go first?
Yeah. It makes me feel good, because I'm a part of a sort of type of new era of education. So it makes me feel as if I'm part of the change, and it makes me feel good being a part of that change, because it's something that can impact the world in a good way.
Yeah.
You stole the show, Darian. That's that's it. That's all. Yeah, it really does feel great, and I think it also brings also these feelings of a desire to pay it forward, and also knowing that, I think the challenge of being a Black founder is sometimes in school design, from my perspective, there's like a invisible playbook sometimes that Black founders don't have access to, in regards to navigating the political and financial dynamic that is also required in order to found a school. And so I think it's important, as there are more Black founders who birth and create schools with community, that we continue to pay it forward, and create opportunities for other folks to come into the mix. I think also for me, it's really important, not only as a Black founder, but as a native Washingtonian, just being able to engage with generations of families. And so, I have had opportunity to be with families who, their older sibling is in college that I was their principal or taught, and now I have their like youngest sibling at the social justice school. And even Darian, like, me and his mom grew up together in the same neighborhood, right? And so like that to me is the beauty of doing this work, not only as a Black founder, but a founder who is native to the city in which they birthed the school.
Yeah, and so you talked a little bit about those challenges. Talk a little bit more about the challenges of, just in general, being the school founder and then being the Black school founder, and what advice you would give to other people wanting to launch and start their own schools.
Yep. It's super lonely, like mad lonely. So I would say, make sure you find your community, your crew, as we call it at our school, because there will be times where you'll begin to question yourself. And so, having that crew of support that are both like your family, your friends and loved ones, but then others who are doing the work. So I was fortunate enough to be in a cohort with a few other Black founders. And so we could have these like authentic conversations about, showing up as our authentic selves and being that unapologetically. I think also, I think there are founders of schools in different cities where, they already have access to the Rolodeck of folks who will write the check, right, that you need in order to kind of kick off the work. And I didn't have access to that. And so figuring out how to navigate those fundraising and that political landscape that we know is so important as a founder of a school. And I think the advice would be to, like I said, find your crew, but just stay in the designer and the dreaming part of founding a school. I think the beauty of launching something new is that like you have the opportunity to continue to iterate over and over and over again until you get it right. And so, make some mistakes, fail forward, but just test and continue to iterate until you arrive at something that relates and that's aligned to what people need in your community.
There is a wave of a movement, I guess I would say, of highlighting Black-owned businesses and Black-owned ... bookstores, Black-owned authors, Black authors, and in this space of education reform, I was really surprised personally that there was not a directory of Black-owned schools, and that it was only really talked about in the education reform space of Black-owned schools, and not like widespread in the movement of, Black-owned, And so talking a little bit about the politics around education, why don't you think there is a lot of attention on Black-owned schools? Just your opinion.
Well, I think the existence of Black-owned directly, of Black-led schools definitely challenges some of the status quo that I think is typically associated with the education reform movement. And so I think there is power in numbers. And I think that having a space like that allows folks to, create that community that is so much needed, that often doesn't happen. And I also think that, the lack of it makes it seem as if there aren't many, and, there still needs to be more, of course, but there are a lot of schools that are led by Black and brown folks. And so having something like this is really revolutionary because it has an opportunity for you to be like, connect with someone that's like, yo, this work is super hard. Can I just talk to you about it? Because I'm trying to figure out how to do what's right to serve our students and our community and our families.
Yeah. And Darren, I love when the schools include students, because it's all about the kids. That's why we're doing this work, to highlight the awesome things that students are doing. What's your favorite thing about Social Justice School, and how are they different from some of the other schools you've gone to?
One thing that I really like about Social Justice School is that they use your input and then they change the school based off of that. So, like, let's say I were to say that we need more breaks during the school day, or we need less work. They would try and input that on the school schedule, or they would try and make it as to where the teachers don't assign as much work, so that way then I could get like the help that I need for other subjects that I'm not doing so well in. And then the social justice school is different from other schools that I've gone to because like those schools, they're pretty strict. And so by doing that, they're like restricting what the child can do, and they're basically making it about the adults and what their opinion is. So then it'll make it as to where the child has no power over their education.
Very well said, Barry. Let me shed some scholar activist tears up in the virtual space. I mean, that's what we wanted to do. I mean, and I think that's, I think having a social justice school, we have to be okay with this notion that our scholar activists are going to demand things from adults.
Because that's what you're training them up to do, right?
Exactly. I mean, we joke all the time that our young people are going to take over the school, but like that's what eventually will happen. Our young people should be leading the school because the work is about them and not about adults.
So how do you deal with that? Because I can imagine and I can't wait till COVID is over so I can come and visit.
Oh, please do. We love that.
School, because I can imagine with such a powerful name, what's in a name, the social justice school. And then two, just organizing and developing scholar activists, people who are going to make informed decisions, and when they find something that they're passionate about, to go for it, head on. How is that in the classroom? Those two dynamics, you really kind of have to break down the traditional hierarchical structure of teaching, I can assume.
Yeah, definitely. I think so we approach it the way we like to talk about social justice is it shows up in our text, our topics, and our in our task. And so the first thing that our young people do in Crew, which Darian can tell you all more about, but Crew is our like tight-knit community, and this notion that every young person needs to belong to a tight-knit crew. And so that's where they go every day when they start the day, and they're with their crew leaders from 5th to 8th grade. And one of the first lessons that they do is for young people to understand and unpack this concept of intersectionality, because our social justice work for us begins with starting with young people knowing who they are and being able to advocate for who they prefer to be. And so that's where they do a lot of the race and equity work in their Crew class. I think the second piece is in our texts in our literacy curriculum. Many of the texts that we read are rooted in social justice issues. So covering everything from like Black athletes and social change to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but the ELA education curriculum as well. And then lastly, it's really our social justice makerspace, our liberatory design lab. And that's where all of our, content and dream and play rooted in social justice kind of come together. And so that's where they do a lot of the work around social justice. And it's really about dreaming of what the world could actually be like.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Darren, since you're a student on Spotlight, what's your story? Tell me a little bit about your education journey, and why were you the chosen student to represent the social justice school?
As to why I was chosen to represent the social justice school, I'm not quite sure why, but as far as my journey for education, I strive to be an aerospace engineer. It's my goal. And so by going to the social justice school, it'll help me like come up with ideas, and then it'll give me like the reasons to make those ideas come true, and basically tell me to follow my dreams no matter what.
Awesome. And I just really appreciate this time with you guys, because it is a testament of the great work, and hopefully this is encouragement for more people out in the world in these maker spaces who are trying to develop schools and have a vision for teaching and want to do it. And so I really hope that there's a directory on our website at blackmindsmatter.net. And we have the first ever directory of Black-owned schools, Black-owned and founded schools across the country. And the social justice school is just one of them. And so anything else you guys want to leave with the people about your school, or about the reason why you believe more Black-owned schools should exist?
Feel free to go first, Darian. I'll follow your lead.
In my opinion, more Black-owned schools should exist because then it would give like the certain community that owns a Black-owned school, it would give them like the confidence that always in. If there was a Black student who wanted to do something, they would be able to strive and they would be able to follow that dream from going to that Black-owned school because they would be around kids of their ethnicity.
Yeah, I would agree, and just say that having more Black-owned schools is just rooted in what we really believe in, is that those who are most proximate to the challenges that they're facing should be the ones who are designing solutions to them. And so come check us out. We'd love to see you. If you're ever in DC, please come through. And again, our school is rooted in love, learning, and liberation. And we're just so thankful to have this opportunity to chat with you all.
Yes, love, learning, and liberation. That's awesome. I love that tagline. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for joining this episode of the Black Minds Matter Black-Owned Schools Tour. This feature was of the Social Justice School in Washington, D.C. They are, yes. They're serving about 53 students this year and have the capacity to serve over 300. So if you're looking for a school for your son or daughter, go check them out. You can learn more information about the events that we're doing during the Black-Owned Schools Tour at blackmindsmatter.net/events. The next school that we have in the mix for the tour is Wadler's Academy in California. It's a Wadler's Preparatory Academy in California today at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 Central. Pacific time. Sorry. Yeah, check out more. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks, Darren. You are the next generation, and I hope to fly on your plane one day.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Myron.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.